Hey Indies, welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing the tape method for a plus size bustier top. Now I've seen this in several groups and I have been very anxious to try it out. You guys, this process was very easy but a little messy, I want to just admit. However, I still was able to get it done and I found it to be a very cool method. Now this is going to be a two-part video. This particular video right here is just focused on just doing the method, casting onto my plus size mannequin and then drafting it onto pattern paper. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to take your pattern from the mannequin to the paper. And then what I'm going to do is do a part 2 video of me sewing the top, and it'll be a part of the wedding dress. So you guys make sure you stay tuned for that. If you guys are loving the content that I am giving you guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, honey. We are trying to reach our first goal of 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you guys tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Your support is very necessary and needed in this moment, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, I started this with my painter's tape. All of the products that I use will be listed down below in the description box, but I started with some painter's tape. You can get this from Walmart, and basically what I'm doing is draping this onto one half of the mannequin. Now with the tape, it is obviously sticky, so what you're doing really is it's more so creating a form than it is really draping. And what you'll see me doing is relieving the tension by cutting little snips. So basically that same process that you do when you're draping with fabric, you're going to do the same thing with tape. But what I found is that this method is most effective when everything is laying flat. So you'll just see me just continuously pushing the tape in, just making sure that it's flat, you guys. This is so important, okay? Make sure that it is as flat as possible. That way that you can get the most accurate pattern as possible, okay? Now, once I get it as flat as I can, I am going to take my permanent marker and I'm going to go ahead and start carving out the shape of the top that I want, okay? So that is what you'll see me doing next. It's pretty simple. This is the beautiful thing about fashion. Your tops, whatever, it can be whatever you want it to be. If you want the bustier top to go a little lower, I would suggest going a little deeper into the bust area. That's just one of my suggestions, okay? So just kind of play with it and get creative. It's definitely not a one size fit all, and that's what I like about this method. So, if you make a line and you mess up, just draw a new line, you guys. Don't be so hard on yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, I was just trying this method out to see how effective it was, and I actually like the method. So try it out, get creative, and see what you can create. Now, another thing that I did notice in this particular video, once I finished recording it, on this particular pattern, I did not put my notches on it. Now, I would heavily suggest that you go back and you add your notches. Why do you need notches? Notches are used to line your patterns up correctly once you transfer them to the fabric and you cut out the fabric. This is how you know that things are meeting in the right place that it needs to meet in, okay? So, I did not put notches on here. I actually did this twice, but this was the one I recorded. So, my suggestion would be to add your notches, okay? It's so important. Make sure you guys are adding your notches. And I'll make sure I insert a clip of the second one that I drafted where I was able to put the notches just so you can see where your notches should go. Now, when you peel it off, just be a little delicate. Again, it is tape and I did layer it in pieces. So if you put your notches and your lines on there, it is very easy to line back up, just the FYI. That is also why it is important to put your notches. So what I'm doing now is just laying this on my table, making sure everything is lined back up to where I originally had it on the mannequin. And then once I get it lined up, I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this out, you guys. Now, when you do this particular method, there is no seam allowance. So the purpose of you putting it, on paper is to go back and add your seam allowance and all those things. So I am definitely going to show you how to transfer your pattern to paper. Now, what I loved about it is when I pulled it off the mannequin, it still kept its form, and I thought that was pretty cool. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start splitting up all of the pattern pieces. It is very important to number your pattern pieces as well, so you can know what 1 is, what 2 and 3 is, what 4 and 5 is. I found that to be best for me. And then where I did the 3 circles, that is just going to be where my center front is, and that means that it needs to be cut on the fold. So make sure you guys cut it on the fold. Now, if you want to do it in 2 pieces, you can, but for me particularly, I wanted to cut this on the fold, so that is what I am going to be doing for this particular style. Overall, I thought that it was pretty easy, but it just got really sticky in here, you guys. It got so sticky, I was just like, OMG, like, it was just so sticky, but it's tape, so just expect that, okay? Alright, so now I'm getting to it, and I'm going to go ahead and get my rulers. Now, the rulers that I used for this was my see-through ruler, my hip curve ruler, and my French curve ruler, okay? So I went ahead and created my grain line, and now I'm going to go ahead and lay my pattern pieces out so that I can start to add my seam allowance and make this a working pattern. Now, what I did like about the tape method was obviously you don't have to worry about trying to pin your pattern down to stick, like hold it in place on the paper. Girl, that thing is going to stick right where it's at, okay? So the method was pretty cool. Now all I'm doing here is just adding my seam allowance. So you'll see me going in between all of the rulers that I have, and I'm adding a 1/2 inch seam allowance everywhere. Now, some people only add 1/8 on the top of the bust, like the top, like where you would hem, where you would be putting your lining for your fabric. I am going to add a 1/2 inch to mine because most plus size women tend to have a bigger bust. So just to kind of keep from having like a lot of fallout in the cleavage area, I'm gonna go ahead and just do mine at a 1/2 inch seam allowance instead of an 1/8. Alright, so with my rulers, you guys, this is pretty simple. You do have to use quite a few rulers, but all I'm doing is just kind of lining those rulers up to give me those straight and accurate lines. So even if I put something on the paper and it wasn't a complete straight line, this is the purpose of transferring it to paper to correct some of those lines that are a little crooked and things like that, alright? So make sure you guys are accurately doing your measurements when you go to add your seam allowance, and correct any of those mistakes that you may have made when you were just like freehanding your top, okay? So that is the purpose of pattern making, to correct any errors that you may have messed up freehanding when you were draping. now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and prepare to cut this out. Make sure you are using your paper scissors for this. Overall, it was a pretty easy process, you guys. Very easy process. Now this is again part 1, but once you are finished with your seam allowance and adding everything that you need to add to make the pattern correct, at this point you are ready to go ahead and test this out on your fabric. So you guys, make sure you stay tuned for part 2 of this video. Overall, this was a very dope process. I definitely think it would have been a little harder if I would have did it on my own with just some muslin or whatever. So make sure you guys stay tuned for part 2 of this video. I hope you guys were able to learn something in this little process of how to transfer your drape pattern to paper. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And as always, you guys, stay happy, stay hungry, and stay blessed. Until next time, peace.